Hello again. Hello, dear Sangha. It makes me happy to see you all and to practice together and for the Sangha to be assembled here on Zoom, on YouTube. And actually, if you wanted to see, to put Zoom for those who are on Zoom to use gallery view to see each other, to get a sense of the Sangha here assembled. It's quite sweet, the Sangha from all over the world, all over the country and the world. So just heartwarming to sit and practice with friends. So, so for the practice today, I'd like to invite us. To practice. So in the past few sessions, I think maybe last week, one of the sessions, the one theme that I invited us to work with was listening with our hearts, and this sense of opening. And some of you shared that that was like open awareness practice, but with a sense of warmth, with a sense of care, settling into our bodies, settling into our awareness with a sense of warmth and care. And also, I remember at the end with the reflections, some Sangha members who have tinnitus, for some it became better, easier to work with the tinnitus since it was all about listening, but not listening with the ears, listening with the heart. But their tinnitus, for some it got better, and for some it became more prominent. So I wanted to lean into that a little more, actually, lean into that. And whether you have tinnitus, also pronounced, and those who don't know what that is, that's ringing in the ears. That can happen for a period of time or for a long time. And the sense of hearing a sound that is not there. And yet, what I want to also invite us to consider is something else that many practitioners or some practitioners work with, which is called the nada sound. The nada sound. So the nada sound, I think it's Ajahn Sucitto, if I remember correctly. Yes, Ajahn Sucitto, who's a well-practiced, well-respected monk in the Ajahn Chah forest tradition. And for an object of awareness, we can use the breath in breath, out breath, as a stabilizer, as an anchor, as a support. Or we can use the sensations in the body. There's also so many different objects. The Visuddhimagga, which is this book called The Path of Purification. It's about 1,000-page meditation instruction from 500 years after the Buddha's death. So it's an ancient, 2,000-year-old, roughly, I think 2,000 roughly. Maybe I'm getting the years all mixed up. It's 1,500, 2,000-year-old manual. Lists a lot of different ways for our mind to get still, for objects, of them, various objects to bring our awareness to. So, nada sound. What is nada sound? Nada sound is the sound of silence. Is listening to silence. Is the sound of silence. So listening to the sound of silence. And when you listen to the sound of silence, actually, after a while, you can hear, it's almost like you can hear a buzzing. It's like an echo that is easily available to those who have tinnitus. And for those who don't have that stimulus, that sound readily available. If you really listen to silence, you start to hear a sound. You start to hear a sound that's always present. And actually, that sound can be a very comforting, depending on how we see it, how we relate to it. It can seem like, oh, this sound that helps, that's pervasive, that's everywhere, and can support the mind to get very still, very open, very quiet. This 360-degree soundscape, this nada sound, this sound of silence, which again, we're saying calling it the sound of silence, but after a while you can hear it. So in some ways it's tinnitus, it's tinnitus, but when you really lower the threshold of hearing, of listening, and you listen very, very intently. So why may this be helpful? Why am I bringing this in? Both to support those members in the Sangha who do have tinnitus and work with tinnitus, and also for those who don't. It to open our hearts, our minds to this other object of concentration, of the mind settling with appreciation. And it can shift one's perspective. If one has tinnitus in this way, perhaps for some, to open up to it as a pervasive object of sound that's present and non-threatening, the same way that the sound of silence is actually always present. To share with you that for a period of my practice, I actually worked with the sound of silence as my object of concentration. And it was lovely. It was just lovely. I could just relax. It was like surround sound. I could relax into this sound, this ambient sound that was always present, and felt calming, felt soothing, felt as if I was tuning into this ever present sound. That's always there that I didn't notice before, which again, I can only imagine not having had tinnitus. Again, inviting a shift in perspective that might be helpful for working with tinnitus for those who have it. And again, if there is resistance here, it's okay too. Notice if there is resistance. Well, not a sound is different. Well, is it? Maybe not. So inviting, if we get inviting some exploration for all of us with nada sound, with the sound of silence, hearing this reverberation, the sound that is ever present, and can help us relax, settle, open our hearts to all the sounds in the universe and all the sounds in our life, present and unpresent, that we don't always hear. It's all like listening to the cries of the world. And in compassion, we open our heart to the cries of the world. So listening to nada sound is a symbolism, is a symbolic way to listen to open up to the cries of the world, the 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows of the world, to open up, to listen with our hearts to the sounds we usually do not hear, to make our hearing with our hearts, again, when I say hearing, the hearing of our hearts so attuned, so sensitive that we can hear the sounds we usually don't hear, the cries of the world, but both internally and externally. So that's how I would like to relate the nada sound to our practice of metta and compassion. Okay? That is the invitation tonight. And again, working with however it works for you, you're always welcome to be your inner Dharma coach, your own inner Dharma coach, and changing the invitations so that they work for you so that they work for you. Okay? All right, I've spoken a lot tonight to set up the frame. It's a bit of a different frame than usual. So let us begin. Let us begin our practice together. So let's land. Let's land in our bodies first and foremost. Become embodied. Letting go of all the words. Letting go of everything that has come before. Tuning in. Tuning inward to this body. What does this body need in this moment? How can I take care of this body in this moment? Do I need to sit up straighter to give myself more energy? To perk up? Do I need to relax and soften the muscles? Landing the body. And let us start, as always, with the breath and the body first to get embodied. Feeling our bottom on the cushion, our feet on the floor, contact points. Our hands on our lap are touching each other. The weight of our body, the whole weight of our body. With the out breath, relaxing. Letting go of the weight of our forehead, our head, our eyes, our jaw, the chin, the neck, the hands, the arms. The torso, our bottom. With the next out breath, letting go of the weight of the legs. The entire body. And bringing the awareness internally. Letting the awareness be in the belly now. Receiving the movement of the breath in the abdomen. If thoughts arise, you notice you're resting now in a thought awareness. It's no longer with the breath. It's okay. This is what minds do. Smilingly smile. at this thought, memory, plan. Thank you. Thank you, but not now. Please come back later. Inviting awareness to rest, to receive the breath in the abdomen, calming, soothing, one breath at a time. So calming and soothing just to be with the breath. Opening the awareness with ease, with receptivity. Just this in breath, the entirety of the in breath and the entirety of the out breath. Now let yourself receive the breath with the heart center, and the heart center, middle of the chest. As if the breath is coming in, coming out from the proverbial heart center, center of emotions in the chest. Hello, breath. Hello, dear breath. Life-giving breath. And see if there can be a sense of appreciation of the sense of awareness of each breath. And now imagine that the breath is filling your heart. As if your heart is the area that the breath is filling, coming into and exiting, is larger, is within you and all around you. Circular orb. Don't try too hard. Don't push it. Let it just be kind of, easy. It's just here. Surrounding, air surrounding me, inside me, outside me, entering the heart. Let it be a light imagination, not too hard. Don't push it. One that doesn't bring strain, but makes your heart relax, your mind relax, soften, feel supported. Safety all around. Breath coming in on its own, exiting on its own. There's not much for us to do than to just hold witness with our hearts. Easeful, easeful, easy. And as you land, relax more fully into your body, into your sit bones. Open up your heart, not your ears in your head. No. Open your heart to all the sounds. Again, it's not effortful listening. And if you're listening with your ears straining, let it go. You're landing relaxedly, as if loving all the sounds. The soundscape of being human in this moment. Listening with your heart. Maybe even if you notice you're listening with your ears, put your hand, your heart center, in the middle of your chest. Listening with your heart. Listening with your body, resonating with your whole body. Sounds internally, externally. It's all okay. All the sounds. Inviting your heart also to open up to, lovingly listen to the nada sound, the sound of silence, which at some point might present itself as a buzzing or hissing or not. Each person's experience is different. Don't try too hard. Just be open to all the sounds with your heart. No sound is a problem. No noise is a problem. just what is in this moment, and this being human. No sound is a problem. Sounds arising, staying for a while, maybe passing. The silence in between the sounds, around the sounds. Notice if there's joy arising, listening, sounds. Mind is settling through ambient sounds, the sound of the breath, the sound of silence, the vibrations within and without. Treat each new sound that arises as a mindfulness bell to bring you back to the present in case you were lost in thought. Every sound, every noise, a mindfulness bell. I'd like to invite you to lean in more to heartful listening, as if you're listening to the most beautiful music, your favorite music. The heart can soar with the amazing, with fascinating notes of sound, silence, reverberations. Delightfully delicious, joyful notes and silence. Leaning more into the heart, listening to all the sounds as if 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows, ours, that of the world's, listening with our heart. Last invitation. What if every sound you hear, every noise, which we take for granted, is really an expression of the divine, of beauty and grace? The music, the mysterious music of life. May we all hear with our hearts. Thank you for your practice, everyone. Listening with our hearts, a different way of approaching this practice. Sounds, sound of silence, sounds internally, externally, but not a sound. Sounds as an expression of grace, beauty, the divinity of being human. All that we take for granted. So, I'd love to hear anything you'd like to share. What you noticed, what came up for you, what insights might have arisen. You'd like to share. Oh, Mark says, angels singing. Thank you, Mark. Beautiful. That's lovely. Actually, I have to say that's the feeling that came up for me also as I was leading this. Yeah. Fred, I see your hand, please.
Well, I can't say there were angels singing. That's something I'll like to aspire to. But certainly, to the degree to which I understood the direction, and I'm not really sure I do, I'm not quite sure I could find the register right where my heart is to open up. But in any case, whatever was listening, um, certainly neutralized the irritating quality of my tinnitus. And then as a comparison, outside the door, somebody had the horn to their car was blaring rhythmically, which was actually much more annoying than what was in my head. Um, so, thank you, and I really appreciate again you bringing our direction to this. Again, I really feel your generosity and do that, and I thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much for sharing your practice, I'm touched. I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted to hear your practice report. That is the direction. That is my hope. That with a shift in perspective, as you were experiencing, that it didn't seem that annoying, quote unquote, this tinnitus that's always present that you shared a few weeks ago. It was really a lot of suffering and pain, and it is difficult. Tinnitus tends to be very hard. So thank you for that gift of your practice and that you're sharing with others, because also many others, both in this Sangha and listening to this audio later, your practice can be inspiring for them with the way you're working with your tinnitus. Thank you. Deborah says, I noticed it felt very intimate and I felt safe with your guidance. This feeling of intimacy. Lovely. Marie Christine says, felt it deep into my concentration. Beautiful. Yes, it does that, this practice, doesn't it? A sense of settling. Jerry says, calmness and peace arose in the context of lethal fear. Wow, beautiful. Sense of fear, lethal fear being met with calmness and peace. That's profound, Jerry. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that in. Thank you. Violet says, I like the invitation. There is nothing wrong with what I'm hearing. It helped me notice my aversion to many sounds and showed how my aversion closes my heart over and over again. Thank you, Violet. Beautiful realization, insight, reflection. Yeah, profound. I'll share something from my own practice tonight besides what the sound of angels that seemed to be coming up, as Mark said. Another one was the ambient sounds, the sound of a motorcycle speeding outside and horns and washing machine or whatever the sounds are. They all actually they start to sound delightful. Me as I was inviting you to perhaps see if it's possible to see them, for them to arise as a sound of divinity. I'm alive. Isn't it amazing? There's sound. There's these sounds. There's these waves, and my ear can hear them and make sense of it, which is all this amazement, this sense of wow, the sense of amazement in the midst of the settling and the concentration, which also Marie Christine talked about. So Gia says, I hope I'm saying your name right. When I leaned into my heart in listening, I noticed I had a smile at the corners of my mouth. Oh, that is so lovely. That is so happy making. It's so sweet. When I leaned into my heart in listening, I noticed I had a smile at the corners of my mouth. That is so lovely. Oh, that is so lovely. Yeah. A sense of joy. Beautiful. So, dear ones, with this practice, I'd like to invite us now, especially as for those of you who have some trepidation sometimes with being in small groups, what if tonight you stretched yourself again? If you have to go, if you have a meeting, etc., or something you have to go, is perfectly fine, no judgment. And yet, if it's just that trepidation of other human beings, what if you listen to them with your heart open, as if it's the sound of angels, and if you listen to yourself as if it's an angel singing, and say as little or as much as you want, or just listen, sit together in silence, sit together in silence. That's okay too. So the invitation is we start with 15 seconds of silence in the breakout group, the breakout room, and then sharing as little or as much as you like with each other about your practice. So I'm making the rooms now. Here we go. They are open. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we have a couple of minutes left. If anybody likes to share any reflections that came up from the group or before your practice, please don't be shy, especially if you haven't shared reflections for a while, for the benefit of the Sangha. Questions, comments, complaints, it's all welcome. Hugh, are you trying to raise your hand? Is that what that is? It was a thumbs up.
I was trying to raise my hand, I think.
Oh, all right. That worked. Well, I kind of saw you, but anyway, so please. Oops. Lost you again, Hugh. Okay, wait, here. You can unmute yourself if you want to share.
Oh, there we go. Well, thank you, Nikki. I had a lovely meditation. I missed, I was a little bit late getting here, and I missed the first 3 or 4 minutes. So, but Jamie told me that you had asked us to imagine ourselves in a place that was perfectly silent, where it's absolutely quiet, and to tune into what sound we could hear there. And when Jamie said that, I remembered that years ago, I wondered about that. So I rented a sensory deprivation chamber to find a space that was perfectly silent to see, what I could hear. And in there, in the dark, floating in warm water, I could hear 2 sounds. I could hear the sound of my heart beating, and I could hear a kind of very faint, high humming sound that I interpreted, or I imagined it to be the sound of my central nervous system working.
Yeah.
Anyway, so since then, I have developed tinnitus like other members of the Sangha, and the tinnitus sound is not at all like the sound I'm talking about. It's a different thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. So I might be, you might find it of interest later when this becomes available. I mean, in a little bit, I'll upload it into Audio Dharma to go back and listen to the first few minutes. And
Sure.
And it's in some ways the nada sound, the silent sound of silence, could be the one that you hear when there's absolutely no other sound and it's completely quiet, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. So that wasn't. It's one version of the invitation. Perhaps one could hear that I said, but not. That's not exactly the invitation. It's a little different. So, yes, what you hear in the sensory deprivation could be one version of that, but not a sound. Actually, after you start to hear it, it's kind of a vibration. It's everywhere. It's not just what you hear in a sensory deprivation tank or when there's absolutely no other sound. So it's a little different. So I just want to invite that curiosity into the another layer of nuance I'm trying to invite here.
Thank you.
Right. Great. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you so much. And also thank you to Jamie to give you a version of that to tune into. Yeah. I, Ah, it's great. So thank you all. Thank you so much for your practice, for your heart, for listening with your heart to yourselves, to each other, to the world. May all beings be well. May all beings be free, including ourselves. Thank you.